we're troubleshooting. Sounds good so far.
Sometimes there's more trouble than fish in the barrel, if you know what I mean.
No matter how you shoot them.
Yeah.
In the words of Bad Street Brawler on the NES, never trouble till trouble troubles you.
That's wise words.
Also, need to make an announcement at the beginning of the show, which is that Mimsy drank my Red Bull.
Oh, man.
She wasn't supposed to.
You got mimsed.
It's like a goddarn office refrigerator over here where 99% of everything in the refrigerator is hers. And I put one thing in there and then it's gone. None of the stuff that's hers is ever gone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She drank my Red Bull.
You write your name on it. Put a little label on there.
No, I'm not writing my name on my Red Bull because she drinks Celsius.
Yeah, Red Bull is implied yours.
I'm just saying, if we're talking about the office refrigerator, you got to write your name on it.
No, what you're supposed to do is put like really spicy like chili powder that like hurts someone in your food and then make a Reddit thread about it.
Oh, yeah. Try that out.
AITA, if you know what I mean.
And the answer is no.
Yeah,
in that
NTA.
case.
NTA, that's your food.
NTA, where have you been? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Packed like sardines in the tin. Coincidentally, sardines in a tin, not something that people in the office refrigerator would be too likely to eat unless you work amongst goblins, gremlins, hobgoblins, river goblins, golems, smeagles.
There's no hobgremlins. It's weird.
Hobgremlins? There's hobgremlins in my fantasy universe.
Nice.
Is a hobgoblin just a big goblin?
No, he's just the orange-green goblin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Throws pumpkins.
Is that a Dungeons and Dragons thing? Hobgoblins, are they in there?
Yeah, they're in there.
Bugbears, kobolds,
Beholders.
hobgoblins, owl bears.
What's the deal with bugbears? They're not bugs. They're not bears.
Would you rather be an owl bear, a griffin, a manticore, a chimera?
Chimera, I think.
I think I would rather be an owl bear because at least it would be easy to explain what I was.
And then people would call you OB every time they saw you.
Yeah.
I like that life for me.
Insert credit episode 332. Is that which one this is?
That's the one, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I actually had this number written down for some reason, and I'm not sure why. But I wrote the number down, and I told myself that I would make a particular announcement at the top of the show.
All right.
For episode 332, for some reason. I'm not sure why I decided it would be 332.
Okay.
But for some reason, 332 was the number I decided was the end of the insert credit experience free trial.
Okay.
For Tim Rogers. So you've reached your limit. You have to pay starting next week. And the fee, $4,000. That's where we're going to start it. And it's going to ratchet up a little bit. So $4,000 a week starting next week.
A week.
Yeah.
All right. That's something to think about.
Yeah.
I'm going into debt over this one, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. When is this episode coming out? What's the
this episode comes out April 1st.
Oh yeah, that would be it then. There we go. Good job.
Oh, you got me. Oh, you got me.
The free trial has ended. Oh, why did I write down this number?
All right, cue intro music. Never trouble till trouble troubles you. This is issue 332 of the Insert Credit Magazine, a show where 3 video game experts are kept on topic by the ever-present threat of a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, and my pawn inclination is utilitarian. I focus on strategies to give my allies advantages.
Oh.
So I'm Frank Cifaldi. I also picked utilitarian because the wiki that Alex Jaffe linked us to, because none of us know what this is.
Oh, I know what it is.
Says unknown effect on pawn's actions, and
that's right.
That's what I do. I just kind of throw ideas into the wind. But if I can't have the same answer, I do have a backup.
I'd love to hear it.
What's the answer?
My backup is I'm a scather. Which battles large or giant foes first, because I punch up, not down.
That's true. I know that about you.
Yeah, that's true. I'm Tim Rogers, and my pawn inclination is I think I'd be a challenger. Hit him with the magic attacks first. That's not what my actual pawn is. No, you mean when you say my pawn inclination, do you mean if I were a pawn,
That is correct.
if I had a pawn.
No, in this scenario, we are envisioning ourselves as the Dragon's Dogma pawns.
So, okay, that's pretty
Yes.
good.
And the listener, I suppose, would be the Arisen.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, even so, Challenger's pretty good because you want to go after those guys. As for the player experience, the player would so there's like Mitigator is the attacking weaker melee foes first. The player wants to go after the weak monsters themselves so they can rack up those popcorn combos. So you want your pawn to be maximally helpful. In my opinion, as a game designer, would be having someone go after the magic users, the projectile users, the flying enemies. That's and I like fighting those guys. So that's me.
I'm Brandon Sheffield, and I was also going to choose Challenger. So now I'm going to choose something else. My pawn inclination will instead be Acquisitor, because they pick up items, and I got a lot of items, so it's true to my life.
That's you. I thought for sure you would pick Acquisitor.
However, my prawn inclination is digging at and eating substrate and enjoying biofilm from rotting logs and such.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
it's fun to make a joke like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when the Nintendo Wii was announced and everyone said it sounded like Wii, like the word wee, like the word that you use when talking about urine with a child.
Hey, I added an R.
And nobody pointed out that it also sounded like the second person plural English pronoun. Or first person plural English pronoun.
Oh, we're going to have some fun with pronouns later in the show.
Nobody pointed that out. So pawn is, not a chess piece. It's something that rhymes with a food Brandon doesn't eat. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I guess I was considering the live ones.
It says a lot about you, Tim, that you think of prawn primarily as food and not as living creatures.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Well, according to most historical texts, fish are just vegetables. Shellfish are just
that's true.
They're
Yeah,
just
it's
huge
very-
bacteria.
That's very upsetting to me. You ever look at a little shrimp digging away? They're always digging and shoving food in their mouth. They're kind of cute little guys. I like those guys.
No, I don't like
I
them.
like them. I think they're good.
They're little sea maggot. Is what
I'm
they
on
are.
Team Prawn.
I think Mimsy's home.
I think you're right.
Welcome home, Mimsy. You're just in time for the insert credit show.
Hold on a second.
Dog City over there.
Mimsy didn't have her key.
All right.
Sometimes people have a house that they live in and they just don't take their key outside, right? That happens sometimes. Does it ever happen to any of you guys here? Anybody here ever leave your keys in your house?
No.
No, however, I did just yesterday while cleaning up dog vomit in the car after a vet visit. I went in there, I cleaned some stuff, and then I placed my key on the car seat and then locked the door.
Shoot.
That's no good.
It was okay. It was just right outside of my house, so I had another key available. But, that's one that I will do. I will do that one for sure.
So did the video game style trade a key for a Red Bull? Like, is the key maybe in the fridge?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Probably,
possible.
yeah.
Could be in there.
Yeah, full inventory kind of deal.
Very, very Dizzy the Egg. When Dizzy's got a full inventory,
Yeah.
and he's walking over an item, and you press the pickup thing, he just drops whatever the most current thing is in his inventory on that spot. I think that's what happened here.
Now that everyone's back, I would like to ask Brandon and Frank about GDC this year. How did it go?
Well, we did a whole episode.
Frank, I think you said this was your best GDC ever.
Yeah.
A GDC. Wait, it was your best GDC ever? Why?
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
What was good about it?
We had an exhibit on the show floor for the first time ever, the Video Game History Foundation. Well, not for the first time ever. We had one 7 years ago. It was dinky. They just kind of gave us a table and said good luck and put us in this weird pit with like other nonprofits. It just felt like we were competing with each other. It was a really, really strange vibe. But this year I talked to the show and did something I've always wanted to do, which is I got the show to essentially hire us as contractors to make a feature for GDC. So we made an on the exhibit floor museum interactive art gallery that was done my way. So typically when people exhibit old stuff at GDC, it's like, here's a CRT and it's got Mario Kart. What do you think? Remember how that's old?
And it like a really yellow Super Nintendo plugged in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's just on a table.
That
and,
exhibit was also there.
That's true. But
Did it have a higher attendance and a louder, more decibels of applause than yours?
It might have had a higher attendance because their placement was slightly better than ours.
God, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Our exhibit was hidden behind the 2-story Epic booth.
Yeah.
And most people don't go into the corner and go, what's back here? Because what's back here at GDC tends to be like, oh, another Web3 thing.
But it was a front corner. You could see it from going down the escalator. So I think it was
You could
okay.
barely see it coming down the escalator, but you could if you looked all the way left. But yeah, like I said, Exhibit My Way. So there's 5 kiosks with 5 actually interesting games that no one has heard of or played before. We did this theme that was games creatively led by people outside of the video game industry from throughout history.
Oh, that's fun.
So we had Wabbit, which was programmed by a Vietnamese refugee woman in 1982 for the Atari, and is the first game to star a girl.
Wow.
We had Alter Ego, which was done by a forensic psychologist in New York City, who went around interviewing 1,000 people about their personal details and just kind of made like a Twine game, except it was 1986.
I've played this.
Oh, good. I like Alter Ego. We did Where in North Dakota as Carmen Sandiego.
Good game.
Like to play my old hits. Yeah, great game. Which was designed by public educators in Minot, North Dakota. Puppet Motel, designed by Laurie Anderson, who just made a weird CD-ROM. You know, in that era of CD-ROMs, she said, well, is this a new art form? And she actually tried something. And it's just kind of a weird, you know, Myst-like click around and things happen kind of experiential thing, not really a game. And then SimTunes by Toshio Iwai, the electroplankton guy.
Oh, I love Toshio Iwai.
Each one was like its own stand-up kiosk with like its own, well, Brandon, you saw, we like 3D printed, we made custom controllers for everything so that there weren't any unnecessary buttons. It just felt frictionless. Just go play the game.
Yeah, and they had a hard reset on them so that you could which is good. So you could
That's really important to me, is that my kiosks have a button that are just like reset the demo. Because I remember going to this one exhibit that really tried to spotlight, you know, creators from throughout history, and it was, you know, Warren Spector, and it was just like System Shock, and it's just like walk up and learn quickly how to play System Shock. That's not how anything works. Like that's not a museum environment. Next to each kiosk, we had these glass cases with artifacts around the game or the concept that we're explaining around the game. So, for example, with Wabbit, you know, we had Wabbit in there, but we also had other examples of female representation in games in the early 80s. So we really kind of tied it all together with stuff. We also had this glass case that was just this total honeypot for older game developers, where we just put in examples of the kinds of things that we collect, and we just thought of like everything we possibly could.
Like a Sims bucket hat.
There was a Sims bucket hat in there. That's right.
I'm looking at the photos on your Twitter. I looked this up so I can have some relevant things to say. So that was me waiting.
Appreciate
for a moment to say something that I remembered. See,
that is a Sims 1 team only hat. You had to have worked on The Sims to get that.
Big fan of team only garments.
Yeah,
I own one team only garment for a video game myself, and I will not reveal what it is.
Excellent. I also do, but like I made them myself. So it was a me only, and I'm on the team.
Oh, that rules.
Do you already have an exhibit in mind for next year on this theme or a different one?
A different theme.
It's the Sims 1 team only bucket hat going to return.
It could, because that display case was meant to be like, look here and go, oh, I have stuff like that. You want stuff like that? I thought it was trash. And that actually worked a few times.
Oh.
So we've got some good conversations going with, like anytime anyone with gray hair was in the exhibit, I just stopped whatever I was doing and went, hello, you seem old.
What have you got in your basement?
Yeah, it really was like that. And usually they did. Yeah, for me, it was, you know, it was a lot of good opportunity from that. It was, I got to do a little speech between the IGF and Choice Awards where I told developers, you know, carefully worded, maybe not directly enough, but in a 2-minute speech, I basically said, when you get back to work on Monday, steal all your stuff before they lay you off and take you out of the credits.
Very good. Very good.
Hopefully that inspires some people. And I saw Brandon, so that was cool.
Yeah,
I was there.
Recorded.
Yeah, Brandon, how was your GDC?
So I learned.
Oh my God, so wasted. Holy Lord, what a god darn own. My God.
Listen to the previous episode of Insert Credit.
Is there anything you want to add that wasn't in the previous episode?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Please do.
I didn't really talk about GDC in the episode, except for in the part where we talked about Frank's stuff, which will be in a guide end that I hope is out. And if it's not, it'll be out soon. But anyway, yeah, two things that happened. One was I learned that Australians can bring out a latent Boston accent in someone who has a Boston accent at birth and then like subsumed it. If they talk to an Australian, the Boston accent comes roaring back, which is wild and very funny. But if you think about it, they have a somewhat similar approach to A's and R's.
Yeah.
Like close enough anyway.
You're getting so close to making fun of Irish people that you should probably stop. Because next thing you're going to start, you're going to get all downtrodden and sullen about Australia's former status as a penal colony, which is not 100% true.
Come on,
about how disadvantaged and ostracized people felt the need to endure long boat journeys to get there, escaping from the United Kingdom where they were being persecuted on grounds of their being Irish.
For talking funny. All right, so that was pretty good. I heard about it, and then I witnessed it happen in person with someone who I did not realize. Like, I didn't even realize they were from Boston. So I just thought they were from LA.
They're out there among
and
you.
then they started Bostonizing because an Australian was nearby.
I mean, there's people who've been more than 2 places out there. It's weird.
Yeah, it's strange. Then there's another instance that stuck in my mind where I was in an elevator with a guy, and he was like, going to GDC, and I was like, yeah. It's like, yep, it's my 20th, getting old.
Wow.
And I was like, oh yeah, I guess, it's my 20th. Actually, maybe it's my 22nd. And he's like, yep, I know, I'm too old. I shouldn't be doing this anymore. He totally
As soon
missed.
as people start doing that,
I hate when
they're
people
dead.
do that. They should give up.
That guy is dead. He's just decided,
Yeah.
I'm dead now.
Yeah, and also, like, I've been to more GDCs than you, buddy. You missed me
Yeah.
saying that part,
Yeah,
friend.
the people like that annoy me about as much as people who post on their social medias about how such and such video game or leisure activities just too hard for them. I'm playing League of Legends again. Oh, I suck so bad at it. Oh, why do I suck so much? It's like, why don't you just play it and shut up? What do you got to be like posting on social media about how you suck, apologizing to us? I'm not watching. Like, I don't see you playing it. You're not in my house. I didn't ask you to entertain me by playing it on my television. You don't need to complain about it. It's fine. Most people suck at most of the competitive games they play, and everybody gets old unless they die first, right? So,
That's right.
who cares? Don't complain about it.
And
Or do if you want. I don't know. Do whatever you want. Thank you.
the other thing that you did here in the last episode is I asked everybody what they were doing to relax or feel grounded or have a good time, etc. And it was pretty neat that everybody had a totally different thing to say. So I liked that. Everybody was different without being prompted to be different. That was kind of neat. And pretty much every time someone was like, this is so stupid, this thing that I do, I was like, oh, that's great. Like, once they finished saying it, it was excellent. I think the little tiny rituals that people have to keep themselves sane are all incredibly interesting. So I liked that. The end.
Keep yourself saying what, where, in general or at GDC? Oh,
No, in
okay.
general. In general, like, because kind of everyone's having a hard time right now and feeling squished in their lives, except for maybe rich people. They
Billionaires, yeah.
manufacture a way to feel like they're having a hard time.
Well, if you've ever watched Downton Abbey or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
rich people's favorite way to get stressed out is to pretend that suddenly tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, they just won't have their money anymore. We'll lose Downton, right?
Yeah.
Like they're just going to lose everything in 2 days. It's real fun that even fictional British people who are rich have that deep-seated understanding that what they have shouldn't really exist, and it could very well just disappear because it's just imaginary and made up. It's pretty fun.
That's what Downtown Alley's all about, as my aunt calls it.
So rich people have to stress themselves out instead of calming themselves down, and so that's what they do. So
I've got a hypothetical question for you guys. How would you write 50 video game guides in a week?
Oh.
Well, we don't. So this is about Kotaku having to write 50 guides a week, but it's the collective group. So first of all, you need a whole staff, and then second of all, you need to do a bad job and use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but a guide is like where to find the 10 jewels, right? Like it's not the complete walkthrough, right?
Yeah. A walkthrough and a wiki guide are two different things.
Yeah,
That's like what
yeah.
IGN's staff of 300 people does. Well, I wonder if I have any experience knowing exactly what's being referred to here. Yeah, it's posts. It's like Frank says, it's like 5 things you should know before you start, 6 cool tricks with the character creator, where to
Yeah.
find that one crafting ingredient. the crafting ingredients you'll need the most of. Referred to colloquially amongst people who consider walkthroughs to be guides. Guides writers colloquially refer to these as tips posts. So tips posts.
So let me ask you a question, Jaffe. Do we care about our job in this hypothetical?
I'm going to say you don't, and Brandon does, and Tim keeps his own counsel.
Interesting.
Okay. So if I don't care, I can't completely not care. Like that's not in my character. But if something's wrong, it's not going to ruin my life. It just might hurt my publication that I don't care that much about. So I am doing all I can to farm this out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping there is something like a freelance budget and that I'm becoming more of a managing editor of my 10 guides that because I'm not responsible for all 50. Oh, I guess I am with your question, right?
Collectively.
I am personally responsible for making 50 a week. For there being 50.
It's all of us. It's all of us.
There just has to be 50 a week.
Oh, all of us.
I don't care how it happens. It's got to get done.
Oh, we're all working together.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. This is a nightmare. So my 15 to 17 guides, I will farm out to, you know what? I think all three of us are picking one game each. And we're just approaching it from 15-ish angles, 15 to 17 angles. And so I'm definitely getting a writer externally to do this. And I'm not going to fact check them that very much because I don't care that much about this publication.
Of course not.
But that would be the structure. I'm overseeing and maybe like idea guiding this person. I assume this is about games that aren't out yet, so there's no guides to like read yet. So really kind of have to work with them and play the game a little bit maybe. But my plan is I'm spending an average of 5 hours a week on overseeing this and paying for the actual like labor that happens.
All right.
Brandon?
I'm just going to play, I guess since I'm the one who's supposed to care a lot about it, I'm going to very diligently play through the game constantly in my spare time, in my evening hours, and write down everything that happens and then see if I can rearrange it into enough pleasing contrivances of tips posts so that it feels like more than it is, but is still something that the viewer will enjoy. So kind of pretty much like what Tim was saying, but I'll have all these things ready to go because I'll know where all the stamina X's are in all the Yakuza games or whatever. So that
the stamina axis.
I can stamina axes so I can tell people where they are. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, so to take this completely seriously, I mean, I'm pretty sure that, first of all, the management at any particular company asking something like this of a video game blog that has like 3 employees is completely insane. And they're a bunch of idiots who've never done any real work in literally their entire lives.
Certainly.
Probably. But also, they've been fed this information that this is the sort of thing that is popular amongst gamers. They've been fed the information that these kinds of frivolous, throwaway, inflated social media posts are basically the bread and butter of the internet. Anyone who has ever seen any of these blogs that come up when you Google anything about movies, I'm obsessed with some of these websites because they're like the worst. Okay, I'm going to just shout them out by name. There's a website called ScreenRant.com.
Oh, Lord.
ScreenRant.com is basically that it's me checking out of ever being able to look at the internet like a normal person ever again. ScreenRant.com is a million billion blog posts that are about the most frivolous stuff regarding movies. I'm starting to get mad thinking about it. Movies and TV shows. When the new Star Wars series, The Acolyte, had its trailer posted to social media, ScreenRant.com had a blog post that was, here's everything we know about the title of the new Star Wars show, The Acolyte. And then there's a sentence that's like, The Acolyte is a new series that's been announced. It's been announced by Disney and Star Wars. Ad break. It's coming to Disney Plus very soon, with a premiere expected in, and then clearly the date copy pasted in, and then another ad break. And then, as regards the title, Merriam-Webster defines acolyte as, and then they literally have the dictionary definition. But we can expect from the tone of the trailer that the series The Acolyte might show us a darker spin on this particular definition. And it's just like, if you want to shred your brain like pulled pork, check out screenrant.com. If you want to be left with just nothing but a goddarn clown shoe stomped Arby's roast beef sandwich inside your skull, go check out screenrant.com. Basically, any idiot white guy with a Frankenstein haircut who looks like he owns a golf course just to take a dump on the green at the 7th hole or whatever, just to fill the every single hole with a little tippy tip thimble of diarrhea every day because he's never eaten a solid meal because he's living on baby food. Like some guy like this, he's probably hearing, trickling down, just urine trickling down the money mountain, that he's just hearing rumbles that you write little insipid trash blog posts and you get big ad dollars. And if you look at screenrant.com, you understand that you do. Basically, screenrant.com is a Twitter account dedicated to a Twitter account, dedicated to a Twitter account of itself, of a website. That's what they would want to turn a video game website into. Having said all that, how would you do that with a video game website? Tips posts, call them guides, post 50 guides a week. Having said all that, I have in the past written tips posts and made tips videos for a website. And I was told to make a tips post about a game that wasn't out yet that I had the privilege of playing for 2 weeks before it was released. And someone higher up caught wind that I'm over here making some art project with it and was like, "You need to make a tips video, you idiot." And I was like, "All right." And I made a tips video, but I did it my way. And
Frank's way.
It got like 1 million views in like a couple hours. And I made it in like 2 hours. I did it my way. I put my spin on it. It was Red Dead Redemption 2, how to grow the biggest beard as quickly as possible.
Oh, that was a good one.
And yeah. And I was like, while I'm making it, I'm halfway through making it. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go back to the beginning and rewrite it as though Ricky Jay were speaking it. Right. And then suddenly stuff starts to percolate. And then I throw away the premise and I ended up with some singular thing. And I was like, you can make a whole website of this. So it's possible. I see other websites that get a lot of hits and a lot of views and a lot of traffic off of insipid, stupid things that they think they're doing their way, which maybe they are, like parody news. Like everybody wants to try to be The Onion, but for video games, right? What if you merged the two? Funny tips, click hole your tips, right? I don't know. Now, that's definitely not what's going to happen in this particular scenario because
no.
The management over there has goddarn rice paper skin, and I think they've already been talked down. All it took was maybe like half a sentence, and then they called a consultant to analyze the sentence fragment and ran it through ChatGPT. They're definitely thinking of using ChatGPT for all of this, of course.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I have been in this situation as an editor. I think among the three of us, I maybe have the unique thing here where I've been essentially the managing editor for news and features on websites about video games. That were like high trafficked things. And I definitely went through this at 1UP. My favorite was we were tasked with find ways to make people go to the home page, which is not a thing. No one goes to the home page. No one goes from an article to the home page.
Yeah.
But it was explained to me that ad buyers think the home page is a big deal, even though it's not a thing anyone goes to. So we need to find ways to get the number higher on, main.html or whatever, because that's what ad buyers like. And so it was like, can you do, I had to come up with things like, okay, we'll do a little widget that's like what's your favorite Mario? And when you answer the thing, it refreshes the page and gives me another page view. I had to come up with just ridiculous stuff like that all the time. That was my favorite. But I think this is a question for a later day. But the stuff Tim was talking about is something that's been percolating in the back of my head for years too.
Funny tips.
It's not even funny tips. It's I think content that tells people how to play. I always had this weird fuzzy concept in my head of a recipe show for playing video games. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a topic for another day that I don't know, maybe once I win again.
I'll put it on my spreadsheet.
Win,
I think that's enough for us to go to a break. We'll be right back. The following ad supports the Insert Credit podcast, but is not necessarily endorsed by its individual members. It's the Insert Credit Quick Break. I'm Alex Jeffy, and this week's Insert Credit is sponsored by 8-Bit Theater. Hey, remember Sprite comics? Remember your favorite Sprite comic? No, not that one. We're talking about 8-Bit Theater. Turns out, that guy isn't dead. Plus, he made a book for the 20th anniversary. If you're wondering how that works with the, shall we say, flagrantly illegal use of copyrighted material, here's how. It's all text. That maniac typed up all 1,200 comics in script format. Not only do you get all the old jokes, he also snuck in even more jokes in the scripts. There are commentaries for every comic, and the commentaries get jokes too. The book comes in over 5 pounds and over 400 pages of teeny tiny text and goofs. You'd be a fool not to get one of these books that in certain jurisdictions may qualify as a weapon. And you can, right now. Reserve your own copy by visiting the old 8-Bit Theater website, nuclearpower.com. That's nuclearpower.com, spelled the way God intended, with a K. If you read 8-Bit Theater in middle school and have ever told Brian Clevenger that fact, you are legally obligated to buy the 20th anniversary script book Do Not Sue edition. Once again, we are making Jeffy sound like a used car dealer. Go to nuclearpower.com and secure your copy today. Welcome back to Insert Credit. It's time to go back down into Carl's Bad Cavern. This is the part of the show where we take a question submitted to us at patreon.com/insertcredit, where you listening right now could get on the spreadsheet that lets you submit questions for just a few dollars a month. You also get weekly bonus episodes and other nice surprises. This week's question comes from BluntForceMama, who asks, What would Final Fantasy VII be called if it was a standalone game?
Final Fantasy VII, just like Leonard Part 6.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, wasn't it already a standalone game?
I believe the premise is not part of the Final Fantasy franchise.
Mean not a sequel, not a... Yeah, so it wouldn't have a 7.
Yeah, I mean, I've often told the story about how when Final Fantasy VIII came out, more than one guy in my dorm said, is that the new Final Fantasy VII? So, I mean, it basically was just people did not know. And people did ask other people. I did witness a person ask, so is Final Fantasy VII, like, are there actually 6 other ones? Like, and I was like, wow, that's cool. It's cool that this guy just didn't know that, because I envied him for a moment. He just thought that the 7 was a little stylism, you know?
Like Fox Force 5.
Envy a guy like that. Yeah, Fox, there weren't 4 other Fox Force movies, were there?
There wasn't even a 5th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they didn't make it, ultimately, I guess. Yeah, so what would it be called? Good question. Big sword guy?
There are, 8 playable characters? So wouldn't it be Final Fantasy VIII? It's the Final Fantasy VIII.
Final Fantastic, it could be called.
Well, let's assume there's already a Final Fantasy series.
Yeah.
And this
is something else entirely.
Right. This is actually like there was like an urban myth to this tune back around in the early internet days that Final Fantasy VII was planned as something else, but that's not true at all.
I wonder if it would be called like Avalanche.
Yeah,
it'd be something like Tales of Symphonia, right? It'd be like kind of a nonsense phrase. I think.
Yeah.
How about Genova's Witness?
Genova's Witness is a good joke.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah, it's something like that, right? Like Spirit of something. It'd be a Castlevania subtitle, but it's on its own.
Yeah.
Harmony of Excellence.
Yeah.
Harmony. Yeah, I mean, I would personally want to give it some sort of like a pulpy Edgar Rice Burroughs, Princess of Mars kind of title, something like that.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also just like the name Midgar. Just call it that.
Midgar is cool. Something in Midgar.
Could call it like Midgar Resistance or something
Avalanche
like that.
in Midgar. Something like...
big avalanche in little Midgar.
Midgar Resistance is too close to Midnight Resistance.
That's true. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, people would be upset that there wasn't a twisty joystick and guns.
And a really good stage 1 music.
Materia Girls.
It's pretty okay, stage 1.
Shame about lots of the rest of that game. No offense to it.
Yeah, sounds cool though.
Sounds cool, and I love a twisty joystick.
Yeah, the old twisteroo.
Yeah. And any game with a twisty joystick, I don't know if Frank knows of any games with twisty joysticks, but I can tell you there's this game called Ikari Warriors that also used the same twisty joystick. It was really good. Yeah.
I just remember it using a D-pad, so I'm confused.
Directional pad.
My actual answer is just Midgar, just the name Midgar.
Midgar.
I like it.
Midgar.
Shadow madness is what they should call it.
Shad Mad,
Yeah.
bro. God, I was just talking up Shad Mad like 2 days ago with somebody.
Legend of Dragoon.
Legend of Dragoon's pretty good.
Shadow of Destiny.
Legend of Legaia.
I think it could have just been called Cloud Strife. Just named
true.
after Cloud.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Cloud Strife also actually sounds kind of cool.
Does.
Now that you think about it, of all the character names in that game, Cloud Strife does just kind of sound like something.
Mm-hmm.
Cloud Strife, comma, Final Fantastic.
I'd like to introduce a new segment at this point, a feature that I'm testing out this week. In the interest of expanding our view of personalities in the game industry other than just Shigeru Miyamoto or Hideo Kojima, I've asked each of our panelists to nominate an individual whose body of work or contributions to games or their place in game culture we might discuss together. Brandon, who did you bring this week?
Since I had limited time, I went with somebody that I have discussed to some extent before, Takayoshi Sato, who is responsible for the CG of Silent Hill 1 all by himself, and then a lot of other things. But I'll get further into depth about him.
When is that going to happen?
I don't know. I thought Jeffy said, "Who did you bring?" I didn't realize. Is it? Do I now do it? Do I now talk
tell
about
us
him?
what's cool about this guy.
Let it all hang out, Carl. Let it all hang out, Carl. Go for it. Bust it.
Yeah, so this was a fella who started at Konami in the mid 90s, and he was starting in 2D stuff. But he was working on Sexy Parodius, and that was 1996, and he realized that 3D was the next thing, and 2D was already dying. And he was like, what does my job look like when this goes away? And so he was learning 3D on his own while working 15-hour days, 7 days a week, having that miserable Japanese game developer lifestyle. But they had Silicon Graphics like systems there. So he was able to learn on the high-end computers that they had at the time. And he made like an internal presentation and stuff. And then the higher-ups liked it. But since he was young, what they wanted him to do was to teach the older people how to do it so that they could then manage him because of, Japanese company hierarchy. He had a problem with this and got into a lot of arguments, which I will kind of shorten here. But essentially it came down to him being like, if you don't let me do something big, I won't teach anybody else how to do 3D anymore. And so through some arguments, they were basically like, all right, well, because he wanted to do CG for Silent Hill, but they wanted him to, be supervised by somebody. And they're like, can you do it by yourself? You really think you're going to do this whole thing by yourself? And so he basically had to say yes. And I've mentioned some of that on here before, but what I think is interesting is that, he was still killing himself and sleeping under the desk and living, and he didn't go home for 3 years. But when everyone else would go home, the reason that Silent Hill has such excellent looking CG is in part because of his artistry, and in part because when everyone would go home, he would take all 150 computers in the office and use them as a giant rendering pipeline so that like all of them were rendering the CG, and he used their linked computational power.
Wow.
And so that was how it wound up looking a lot better. But he also has a really interesting kind of approach to creating characters where he really focuses on asymmetry and imperfections to make them appear more human. And he had more control over that in Silent Hill 2, which you can really obviously see there. But then if you look at his website, which I highly recommend, you have to look at it on archive.org, but try looking at, so it's satoworks.com. Try looking around April 2016 and just click around his work history, his concepts and everything, and just look at how he renders characters. It's wild how he worked in 2004 on a game called GoldenEye Rogue Agent, which came out and has a generic man as the protagonist. But if you look at the original stuff that he did, it's basically like Gary Oldman character studies is what he wanted to be the protagonist of GoldenEye Rogue Agent, which is super neat. You can also see the unfinished game that he was kind of in charge of, Frogger Ricochet, which is an unreleased, unfinished Frogger game where Frogger would attach his tongue to things and then bounce off of stuff. He also worked on Fatale with Tale of Tales, and he did a bunch of serious GameWorks and really interesting stuff. Like he did a game about the AIDS epidemic, which has just like amazing character design, which is a bizarre thing. But now, I don't know as much about what he's doing now because he's moved to Nintendo and
entered the black box.
He's entered the black box and the black hole. But what I do know is he has, since moving to Nintendo, been credited as visual producer, which is very interesting. I have not really seen that title for a lot of people, and he worked on a lot of various things. He was actually art director on Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers, which people like.
DHB.
And most recently was the visual producer on Metroid Prime Remastered, which people quite like that remaster as a tasteful way.
Is that a remaster or a remake? It's my favorite joke to keep making.
Yes.
So I'm going to keep doing it.
So yeah, he's a really interesting guy.
I mean, because they did totally remake the whole game from scratch, didn't they? I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
But
I mean, they did though, kind of. I mean, I don't know.
But yeah, you should look up his website and you should check out. I did an interview with him in 2005.
I think it's got some of that GoldenEye stuff in it too.
It does,
if I remember right. Yeah,
it does. Yeah. So that's who I got. He's an interesting fella. I met him a couple of times. When he was living in Torrance, California.
God, I love Torrance.
And
Gardena. We can shout out Gardena while we're at it.
Yeah, Gardena has the good book off in it.
Yeah, I don't know about no good book off, but I don't need to go to a book off.
I like a good gardeniera, the pickled vegetables.
Yeah, the pig. Yeah, put that on my sandwich.
Frank.
Yeah, well, I want to say that in our host only chat, I shared a 4K render of a Silent Hill cutscene.
It's a picture of my mom
because we actually have a zip disk in our collection that has like PR renders from Silent Hill, and they're in 4K. And
I gotta get a zip drive.
You should.
I'm joking.
Get a USB one. They're a little more expensive, but you don't have to deal with SCSI. I think this still looks really good.
It does.
I think if you rendered this game in 4K, it actually would look pretty good.
It looks artesque.
If you look at other CG of humans from 1999, this really clearly has something going for it because there's character and life to it.
There's a facial expression.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is not common for.
And if you watch all those cutscenes, I recommend anybody watch those cutscenes from 1999 and then try to just find any other game from 1999 that had CG and compare them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was all done before motion capture, etc. Okay, go ahead.
So you want me to do mine too?
Yeah, I want to hear who your person is. Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever talked about her on the show, but former Nintendo employee Gail Tilden is someone whose contributions are just not very well recognized, although people are starting to come around. Gail was at NOA the first like brand and marketing person, period, as far as I know. She launched the NES, right? She was in charge of things like advertising, but also just the aesthetic of the packaging, the black box with the diagonal pixel art aesthetic to it, the way that it was displayed in stores, things like that. She left to have a baby, but then she was asked to come back and launch Nintendo Power Magazine, which she was the editor-in-chief of for, I think, 10 years, maybe more than that.
Wow.
A long time.
It is. And, I think other people like Howard Phillips, not because they claim it, but they get the credit for Gail's work. But really, that was Gail's magazine, and like all of the ethos that went into it was hers. I'm a little bit fuzzy on this part, but while doing that, she was also doing like kind of localization management, and she might have started the group that became Treehouse. So she, for example, was in charge of. She didn't do the direct work, but she managed the localization of games like Earthbound in the mid 90s. And then her next project, she stepped away from Nintendo Power in order to launch Pokemon. Like she was the Pokemon person for I think another 10 years. She was entirely in charge of that brand in the West. That's a lot of stuff that had a lot of real impact on people. She's not a game creator, but she is someone whose work and ethos and style has, touched all of us in some way.
She certainly got all that stuff in our brains.
Yeah, exactly.
30% of Nintendo's identity.
I mean, I really think that. I think a lot of what people are, when people are like nostalgic retro gamers or whatever, what they're nostalgic for is marketing and brand. And so I think that they're thinking of a lot of her kind of stuff. That's not us. Like, we have souls. Like we like art and stuff. But I think most people just like the way that they were marketed to when they were kids.
If she was marketing for the launch of Pokemon, does that mean Gail Tilton is Gotta Catch 'Em All?
I think so. Like she at least approved that. You know what I mean? I don't know if she wrote it, but like she's the one who decided, I'm sure, that was her. That was the phrase. And in fact, we have an older one. We have an older press kit from before it was launched that says, catch them if you can. And like the next press kit we have like replaced that with Gotta Catch 'Em All.
I would like to catch some of them.
Good change.
I don't have a lot of insight into like whether she was a good copywriter and she came up with phrases herself or whatever, but like, she managed all of that. She was in charge, and people are only starting to like seek her out and interview her, but at the same time, she is starting to finally be comfortable with being sought out and interviewed, and she's appeared in documentaries and things like that, and I think she's starting to sort of claim her place, but for a long time, she was pretty quiet, and I'm the one who called her when like Nintendo Power went out of business. She had no idea. Like no one else told her that.
Oh man.
So she's starting to come around and be in documentaries and things like that. Yeah. So Gail Tilden.
Nice.
Gail Tilden.
GT.
Tim, do you have a person?
I was hoping Frank and Brandon would bring up people I'd never heard of, because then I was prepared to hilariously make up a guy. And then like it was going to end up with like him designing some obscure mechanic, and then ultimately.
Okay, next time I will, because I did just think of somebody that nobody's ever heard of that would be good. So
and then
time.
ultimately introducing Yuji Naka to like Bitcoin, which got Yuji Naka into insider trading somehow. And then basically, not only did he invent the crouching in video games, but he also indirectly got Yuji Naka in jail. It was going to be my thing. I was going to make the guy up. But instead, I'll just mention, since Brandon mentioned an artist, since you both mentioned someone I've heard of, I want to mention a buddy of mine. I don't know if he's I haven't talked to this guy in over 10 years, but he's a buddy of mine. A guy named Akihiko Ishizaka, who is one of the 4 founders, together with Goichi Suda and Masafumi Takada, and the third tenor, together with the one of the 4 founders of Grasshopper Manufacture. Basically anything that you liked about the visual, you, the listener, liked about the visual identity of Grasshopper's games, Flower, Sun, and Rain, The Silver Case, Killer 7, No More Heroes. This guy had a whole lot to do with almost all of that, and he was just a wonderful artist. If you ever played Killer 7, you're perhaps familiar with just how absolutely crazy bonkers all of the user interfaces look. Killer 7 was the game that got sold by screenshots. People just saw images of it. Stills from Killer 7 were mind melting. And then when you play the game in motion at the time that game came out, it just felt very magical and bizarre. And Ishizaka was king of putting stuff together visually in those games. And he just had a real strong sense of making stuff look interesting and leaning on just kind of classical inspiration from graphic design, and not just making stuff that followed trends of manga and anime. And he was not a realism guy, et cetera, et cetera. And he just the games looked interesting, and I feel like for the duration of the existence of all of those games, Goichi Suda has just kind of gotten blanket credit for everything in all of them. And sure, Suda did some stuff, but the visuals were such a thing in all those Grasshopper games. Like, if you played The Silver Case, anybody here played The Silver Case?
Yeah.
Like, incredible looking video game. Incredible looking game. Killer 7, incredible looking game. These are games that look neat. And, just for his contributions to what he thought a reasonable user interface should look like alone, guys, Hall of Fame material for me. But I have a couple of additional insider baseball sort of things to say about him, which is we were working on this game, Shadows of the Darned, which didn't have a name for several years. and it didn't have any kind of a mission statement for several years, and it was in a purgatory for a very long time, design wise, and it had just no identity to speak of, game mechanically, visually, sonically. It had nothing, right? Because there were too many questions and stuff was just taking a while to kind of glacially come together. And I was able to witness a lot of stuff that Ishizaka made for that game that looked really, really interesting. He was just constantly riffing and throwing stuff out, like constantly. And it was all so interesting and marvelous looking. And ultimately, he left before the project even got really going, which, again, it took a very, very long time to start up. And he left for a reason that was not super clear to me. And I'm not one to speculate, but I know that it was around the time that Suda wanted the graphics to look more realistic. Suda literally told Masafumi Takada, one of the most incredible video game music composers of all time, that he wanted a theme that sounded something like from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, because he thought that's something orchestral, symphonic, and Hollywood-like is what EA would like. They were second guessing what would EA like.
Yeah.
What EA would like was Resident Evil 4 again, basically, because they had Shinji Mikami's name. So Ishizaka left, and the game, I think, ultimately, anything by Grasshopper you see after that is just, it's either visually uninteresting or it's someone trying to huff the fumes. No offense, huffing fumes is fine if you like that. But my main anecdote here about good old Ishizaka, Akihiko Ishizaka, is if you go to his Moby games and you look at the pick that's on his Moby games, first of all, you'll see he's been working on stuff like Danganronpa pretty recently. So I don't know if anybody here's ever heard of that one. But there's his Moby games. And you look at the pick on his Moby games, right? See that pick?
I see it.
That's him in, I think, around the year 2005 or 2006. I comment frequently on Yuji Naka having used the same headshot for like 25 years, right? Like, which is a younger shot of him. So this is young Ishizaka. There was a point when EA was coming over for a meeting. And, with all the layoffs in the video game industry somewhat recently, I'm going to go ahead and say it. EA's guys came over in big old giant suits, like their belts done, under their bellies, just big old guys buttoned up all three buttons of the jacket, just like they came over looking like trash. Like, no offense to them. They were rich executive men. They looked like trash. But Suda, really, really terrified of being embarrassed in front of them when EA came over to take them to dinner with the four founders of Grasshopper, really, really, really wanted to give Ishizaka a makeover. Okay. He said, I'm going to take you shopping. We're going to Daikanyama, right? And you're looking at this picture of this man, this ancient headshot, right? I swear to God, 2 hours later, the hottest goddarn dude in the world walked back in there. And you know what it took? Black turtleneck, selvage denim jeans, a big pair of engineer boots, completely shaved head, completely groomed goatee. And he was just the hardest looking dude. Like, he just went from the pic you see on Moby Games to hardest looking dude in like 2 hours.
Oh man, he's got to update that pic.
I went up and I just I slapped him on the shoulder. And I was like, "You're looking good, dude." And he just goes, "Yeah, I know." And then like a month later, he was gone.
So I guess Suda's got a future as a makeover.
Well, no, I mean, Suda did admit, he did say it was really easy. Just got him a turtleneck and some jeans, and then we got his head shaved. If you lack the resources to look at Moby Games as you listen to this, know that the pic on Moby Games, the hair is a lot shorter than it was in real life. He was balding, and he had just like mad scientist hair growing out the sides of his head. And he just wore sweatpants and big baggy t-shirts all the time.
That's what I want my art director to look like.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Yeah.
But then you see the alternative and you're like, oh, he's pretty cool looking now.
No, then he's going to leave. I want him to look like a freak.
That's right.
And art direct my games.
Just the coolest goddarn guy. I love talking to that guy.
I don't know if he was in charge of this. He probably was, though, given the time I was looking at it. But I was very impressed by their websites. Because they kept refreshing what I used to post on Insert Credit a news item when Grasshopper Manufacturer updated its website because it looked cool.
I don't know if he was per se the webmaster of the website. I know that when I started working there were around 20 employees, right? So there was a low number. So I wouldn't put it past
Yeah.
Pre my working there, Grasshopper to have asked him to actually design the visuals of the website.
I'm sure he was involved in the visual identity of it at the very least.
Because the website did definitely look like something that was designed by art director of the Silver Case, or I don't know if he was he the art director of the Silver Case? I just always assumed he was. Graphics. He's credited with graphics on the Silver Case. I'm pretty sure he was the guy.
I do want to make one point here.
Yeah.
Takayoshi Sato has a 1,400-word Wikipedia article. Gail Tilden has an 800-word Wikipedia article, but Akihiko Ishizaka has no Wikipedia article,
so I win.
Which means Tim Rogers wins this week.
Oh my God.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well, Frank and I both did an episode last week, so
That's
I
true.
think that means that we win.
That's true. Let's call it all even.
I did a live stream last week, so that has tens of thousands of views or whatever. So I mean, who wins really? Ultimately, like
Two
who really
different
wins?
people went back and forth updating my photograph on Wikipedia last week, so I think I win.
Oh, that's good.
That's true.
I had to show a guy my photograph on Wikipedia last week.
For what reason?
Because I went to buy a White Claw Surge for Mimsy at the grocery store downstairs because she wanted a green apple White Claw Surge to drink in the bathtub.
And if you didn't go purchase that, she might have given up her house key.
Exactly. She would have dropped it on the floor. So I went down to get it, and the guy goes, I need to see your ID. And I'm like, what, seriously? I'm 45 years old, man. And then he's like, oh, really? You don't look 45 years old. And I'm like, you're like, how old are you, 12? And he goes, oh, I'm 18. I'm like, oh, you didn't have to tell me how old you were. And then I'm like, you see this gray hair? And he's like, oh, our policy is we've got to see your ID. I'm like, I don't have my wallet. Nobody has their wallet anymore. I pay for stuff with my watch, right? And he goes, well, I'm sorry. I'm new here. We can't sell this. And then I said, I can show you my Wikipedia page. And he said, yo, are you for real? And I said, yeah. And he said, all right, let me see it. And I whipped it out, and he goes, same exact jacket. And he goes, yeah. Okay. And then he sold it to me. So,
Right.
Tim, could you stop listening for a second so I can say something to Frank?
yeah, why not? Go for it.
Hey, Frank, Tim has gray hair. You should ask him what he has in his basement.
Oh, good joke.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because you said you were asking
Oh.
people with gray hair what they have in their basement.
I
don't
thought
have
it was
that.
a pubic hair thing.
Me too.
No,
I was like,
what?
Jaffe, come on.
What? Yeah.
No!
That's,
What?
I mean,
What?
I got
How
it.
could you
I
even
would.
think that of me?
How could we even think that of you? I mean,
I
that's
would've
a
expected.
classic
What
joke
other-
from the 90s that everybody
It was
like,
a callback to something we literally did in this episode.
It was
man.
literally what Frank had said. I think you
Yeah.
should dock Frank's pay this week for not
Frank,
getting that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm on board with Frank for thinking
Oh,
that.
well,
was
you wouldn't
scandalous.
get it
Lord,
'cause-
no.
You wouldn't get it because you're just like really slow on jokes in general, Brandon. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
All
fine.
right, speaking of being slow on jokes, it's time for a lightning round.
Well,
This
what
is
if
a
I
the
game-
joke-
tried to make a leprechaun joke.
I know.
What if the joke is that Jaffe thinks that it's funny that I might wonder what color your pubic hair is? Like, that might be a joke to Jaffe.
We have
It's
to
not
move
a
on. We
heightened
have
sense
to
of
move
humor
on.
that I understand.
We have to move on. This is a game I've been looking forward to playing for a while called Popcornocalypse. I'm going to take that again. It's Popcornocalypse.
Popcornocalypse was the
Hippity
title of a
pappity poopity.
canceled action button game from
Yeah.
2013.
I'm going to
Is
name
it in your
an
basement?
upcoming.
No, it's actually right here. It's in my QNAP NAS right here. If you want to check it out.
You got it on your zip drive.
I got my
I'm going to
prototypes.
name an upcoming video game movie currently slated to
Very
be
good.
released in theaters at some point. And you are going to design the tie-in popcorn bucket for that movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Here we go. Your first video game movie is Borderlands.
Oh, it's a popcorn
Borderlands.
bucket that sucks.
I think it would be made.
It's that robot. It's that robot thing, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's that robot.
Yeah.
I guess it's probably that robot.
And it sucks. It has a vacuum cleaner mechanism in it so that it sucks your hand in because
Yeah.
the game sucks.
See, I was thinking that it would be because they talked about kit bashing so much, and they had so many like boards that they would just replace everywhere, and they were very excited about that. So I was
boards.
thinking it would just be like a fake wood box with all these little boards around. But the little robot guy is probably better. It should just be the robot
I mean,
guy.
didn't somebody buy Gearbox like today?
Yeah,
or it was
literally last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Take two.
Take Two.
God, like how much they spend for that? Not $1 billion, please.
460 million, I think. Not
Okay,
1
so
billion.
less than half a bill. I hate that
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, okay, at least they got kind of a deal. It's like you would expect it to see the news that like Microsoft paid like $12 billion for
It
them.
was the second time they got sold in 2
No,
years.
if you want anything Embracer owns, this is the time,
Mhm.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, fire sale.
Yeah.
Next is Minecraft the movie.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's just a cube.
It's made of Legos.
It's very easy. It's just a cube.
It's made of
Yeah.
Legos that you can take it apart when you're done.
Yeah, it's a cube, and it's like, it's one of the good ones. It's not
One of the
dirt.
good cubes.
Yeah, it's
I think
gold
it's
or
just
something.
the
One of the
green.
better
It's
cubes.
it's the green cube that's in the logo. It's just that cube.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be.
The Legend of Zelda.
Oh, God, there's a Zelda movie coming out in there.
Shouldn't it be
Yeah.
a treasure chest? And when you open the top of the popcorn bucket, it goes doo until the battery
What,
runs
in
out.
the theater?
There's
Yeah.
a blast of LED. There's like LED like edge lighting on the inside, so when you open it up, it blasts light in your face.
And
Because
smoke.
yeah, because you know movie theaters, it would blend right in the typical movie theater.
Yeah.
Where you would see a movie like The Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers, it would blend right in with all of the full blast cell phones and people showing up. My Super Mario Brothers the movie showing, someone came in an hour late with their iPhone flashlight on, just like the whole like trying to find their seat, and then walked right in front of the screen. Very funny.
Yeah.
So why not have it light up?
That happened to me in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh yeah. How late into that?
Oh, 15 minutes.
Oh, 15 minutes isn't bad. I've been seeing some. New York's got goblin behavior with hour late people coming in 40 minutes late. It's terrible.
Next is Ghost of Tsushima.
God, why are they making a Ghost of Tsushima movie?
Yeah, really?
Yeah. I'm gonna be an ignorant executive who doesn't know anything about this, and it's gonna be a ghost. It's gonna be like a little Halloween store, spirit Halloween, goofy little ghost, and everyone's gonna complain. I'm gonna be like, what?
It's going to be one of those McDonald's Halloween buckets, you know, that are like the pumpkins, but I think there was a white one that was like a ghost pumpkin. So it's just that. You just found
Yeah.
the mold for that.
Yeah.
I love it. Next is Gears of War.
God, they're making a Gears of War movie?
They sure
gonna
are.
I'm gonna keep saying I know all of this. I'm just messing around.
It's got to be the locust pit.
It's an emergence hole, I was gonna
Emergence
say.
hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big old piece of pavement that's just got a cracked hole in it. And it's like a big chunk of asphalt.
They dye all the popcorn like greenish to be kind of locusty.
Brandon, I don't think you understand the intricacies of how this works. It's a lightweight plastic thing.
I know.
That's all you get.
I'm making it
You don't
exciting.
get custom popcorn.
Have you not seen the Dune? Oh, I think we.
Oh, I've seen
No, I'm
it.
talking
Yeah.
to Frank.
Of course I've seen it. It's just a lightweight plastic thing that they put their popcorn.
Have you seen the Evangelion one though? I pronounce it Evangelion.
I
on
have.
purpose.
It's a lightweight plastic thing that they put the popcorn in.
That's like. I hate to say this,
Spider-Man
but
one.
that's one of the more reductive things I've ever heard anyone say about the Evangelion popcorn bucket. It's possible you've never seen the Evangelion popcorn bucket.
It's a like shoebox looking thing. I don't know.
Having proved that it is a popular thing now, I think they're going to continue to get more complicated. So that's where I'm going
Yeah.
with it.
That's fair.
There you go, Frank. I just posted a photograph of the Evangelion popcorn bucket.
Oh, I've seen this. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a weird little
Wow.
helmet that barely fits more than like a handful of popcorn in it.
Well, yeah, look how big those kernels are. You can't. That's not popcorn.
Yeah, it's a tiny little. I know a guy who
Oh,
bought
it looks like
one.
gourmet popcorn. Death Stranding.
Death Stranding, they put straps on the popcorn bucket so you can wear it as a backpack.
Oh well, no, the Death Stranding. It's the Bridge Baby pod,
Of course,
man.
it's the
Come
Bridge
on,
Baby,
Dubba
yeah.
doy, like Dubba
But it
doy,
would-
Boy.
But it would be pretty fun.
Dubba doy, Dubba goddamn
As long
Dubba
as you can strip
Dubba
it.
doy.
Strap it to
Street
yourself.
Fighter.
I feel like the Death Stranding popcorn bucket in the U.S. would be a cheap plastic Bridge Baby bucket, and in Japan it would be like a Porter brand plastic hard shell suitcase thing that you can strap.
That you strap on your.
Yeah, is what it would be.
Street Fighter is just Guile's head.
Yeah. I like that.
It would be
That's
pretty
very
good.
good. You like
Yeah.
open up his hair like a hinge.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a little
great.
trap door in his hair. Yeah,
Yeah.
you fit a lot of corn in that big boy.
Space Channel 5.
They're making a Space Channel 5 movie?
I didn't know
Yeah.
that
All right.
one. It's one of her boots. Like you eat out of her boot.
Eat out of a boot. Yeah, I
that's
like
pretty
that.
good.
Space Channel 5 is a popcorn bucket that just is going to kind of like not be that exciting past the first 4 or 5 seconds of it.
Yeah, once you get it, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
all
first
right.
layer of kernels. That's
It's
about
quite possible that for the Space Channel 5 movie, they might just print Ulala on a popcorn bucket, and that's all
Yeah.
they care to do.
On like a white paper bucket.
yeah,
Yeah.
it.
exactly.
Yeah. On like a bag. Duke Nukem.
Ain't a Duke Nukem movie?
That's the same mold as Guile's head, but they shave off the
Shave off the sides and
sides.
put some
Yeah.
sunglasses
Perfect.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it. And finally, Bioshock.
Oh, it's Big Daddy helmet. It's a big old diving helmet.
It's the same thing, except it's Ken Levine.
Oh,
They painted the hair a different
It's
color.
Ken Levine's head. No, it's probably the
It's the Big Daddy. It's
The
a
Big Daddy.
diving helmet. It's a big diving helmet.
Or it's like the submarine thing. But I agree, it's a diving helmet.
And it would be a big clear plastic looking thing.
I'm going to suggest this. There's a small diving helmet you could get, or a really big little girl that you can rip open to get the maximum amount of popcorn.
yeah, you can tear her head off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get like 6 more popcorn kernels. If you
And there's a
Exactly.
whole bunch of red food coloring that sprays blood onto the popcorn, so you have to live with your choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Red food
moral
coloring,
popcorn choices.
dude. And there's 6 more kernels, exactly 6.
And then if you buy it, the cashier has to say, "Would you kindly pay me $10.33?"
Yeah.
Yeah. God, there's gonna be a Bioshock movie, dude. The world's gonna goddamn end when that
Oh,
happens.
man.
Yeah.
The Django Reinhardt sales are going to be through the roof.
Ah, man, that Borderlands movie is coming out, isn't it? Ooh.
Yeah,
Is it?
that's right.
The Fallout show is coming out, and I hate that I'm kind of into it.
Walton Goggins, dude.
Yeah.
Walton Goggins is in there. He's got a weird face in it.
Yeah, he does. He's got a Fallout face.
When you give that guy a weird face, I'll show up.
Guy's got a heck of a Lord of the Rings sounding
I'll
name.
check out a weird Walton Goggins.
You know, you give that guy a weird face. I'll show up.
It's about time for recommendations. Is that what you want to recommend? Looking at a weird Walton Goggins?
I'll recommend the work of Walton Goggins in general.
WeirdWaltonGoggins.com.
Where's Walton? No, you ever see that show Vice Principals that he's in with
I did.
Danny McBride? You ever see that show Righteous Gemstones, Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers? You ever see that?
I have.
You ever see Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers? Brandon, you should watch The Righteous Gemstones if you haven't.
Oh, you would
Brandon.
love it.
It's very good.
No, he wouldn't like it because it's got Christian themes.
Oh no, it doesn't. It's about televangelists and mega churches, but it's largely it's just very good. It's a very good TV show.
I'll give it a look.
And you've got Walton Goggins wearing it's not a wig. I think his hair is bleached and dyed gray, and it's in a huge pompadour. And he plays John Goodman's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Uncle Baby Billy is his name. And it's a wonderful characterization. It's really good that he's playing an old man because they show him at his normal age in flashbacks alongside a de-aged John Goodman, which is very funny to have to do that, which is clearly part of the premise of the show. But Uncle Baby Billy, and if you watch enough of the show, you get to hear him say Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers over and over again.
200 times.
He comes up
It's
with a
the best
TV
thing.
show idea that's just Family Feud, but with Bible verses, and it's just Bible trivia. And he does not know that he's plagiarized Family Feud, and everyone hates it. But as an idea, but then once they play it, they just love it. But they never acknowledge that they love it, which is very funny. It's
Yeah.
full of jokes like that. I would recommend Righteous Gemstones to just about anybody with a Max, the one to watch for HBO subscription or access to torrents.
All 3 of those Danny McBride shows are worth watching.
Yeah. I guess that guy he's able to churn out stuff that's churn out. I don't really like say like he's churning it out.
Like butter. Just
He's
Like
churning
butter.
it like butter.
pumping it. Yeah.
It takes a while.
Yeah,
Churning
it takes
butter.
a while to churn some butter. Well, I mean, the churning is a mindless repetition, though. It's just
I
doing
suppose.
this. It's just it's not
Does
super.
anyone want to describe to the audience the motion that Tim just made?
Yeah.
No, I've hit my quota.
It's the same motion that you use to recharge the batteries in your lightsaber in
Yeah.
No more years.
Akihito Ishizaka's No More Heroes. Heck of some interfaces in there.
That's a callback that makes sense. That we all understood was a callback.
Yeah.
Basement?
Thanks, Frank. Thank you,
I
Frank.
didn't even say basement.
Yes, you did.
Oh,
Never gonna lose.
Okay.
Brandon, what do you have to recommend? I know you got like 6 things.
I only have 3. I'm gonna I'm gonna recommend a couple Kickstarters.
A
Actually,
Canadian VHS tape this week to try to be more accessible.
Matthew Kumar was at my house on Friday, and I was showing him Canadian VHS tapes.
Oh wow, really?
I really was, because
That's
he's
straight up deranged. That's some Sandman nonsense that just manifested here.
he's Canadian now, and so I was, and he likes obscure films, and so I was showing him some, like Abraxas, which is not that obscure, but Replicant, that's pretty obscure.
Replicant's
Anywho,
all right.
I'm recommending a couple of Kickstarters. One is my buddy Randy O'Connor has a tabletop game called Gun It. You're like in a car chase and collaboratively escaping from baddies, and I wanted him to call it Card Chase, and he didn't do it. But it is more
It's
accurate.
very good that he didn't.
Yeah, it's probably good. It would have been bad SEO, as they say. Anyway, check that out if you like tabletop stuff. Then I also have to recommend Wild Zero 2. So Guitar
baby.
Wolf is trying to fund a second Wild Zero. Wild Zero was a pretty fun movie.
Wild Zero was one of the movies that Japan is so crazy, dude.
Yeah.
There's no end to that sentence. That's
It
just
was,
where
but
it
it's
ends. But yeah,
it's unfortunate that was the perception of that movie, because it was pretty cool.
that movie rules. Yeah.
But
Well, the whole thing rules. I think the whole situation around that movie rules. So
absolutely, I'm incredibly skeptical that you can make a good Wild Zero 2 in the current era with CG effects and whatever. However, with the yen being so weak, it's basically free to support Wild Zero 2, and I think that you should. And they're going to try to do their best. We should check it out. So that's on Kickstarter also. It costs $1,500 to become an executive producer of Wild Zero 2.
I'll do it.
In the credits
That's
only.
cheaper than buying a really good 61 Gibson SG.
That's right.
Guitar Wolf's guitar of choice, in case anyone didn't know that.
And my last recommendation for the week is, if you liked my recommendation of Scritti Politti, which many people apparently did because they kept messaging me about it, check out Hubert Kah. Hubert Kah is not the name of a person, it is the name of a band. KAH is
the name of a band Brandon made up.
I made them up.
Joking.
Check out the album Sound of My Heart. It's got a lot of hot tunes on it. If you like those kinds of things, give it a listen. You might enjoy. That is what I have for this week.
So I have an update on a previous recommendation. I talked about a game called RZ. My final time on that game,
Cool game.
boys,
Hmm.
5 hours. It's a
Nice.
5-hour game.
Whoa!
Oh, Squad-a-la, dude.
Quite a
Yeah.
lot.
Squad-a-la.
Squad la la la.
I then learned that I didn't know this until after I'd played through it. The author of that game is the person who a couple of years ago put out exquisite Windows ports of the 2 Zelda CDI games
Oh yeah, I did know that.
for free. So I didn't know it was the same person. And then I played both of them too. And I kind of respect them, which I'm surprised to find myself feeling.
That's wild.
They're all right.
Oh, man.
They did retune it so that it felt
Well, no, they did, but also you can turn that off and it's basically the same game.
interesting.
Like
Interesting.
the tuning isn't huge. It's just like it fixes things like the collision detection of your sword. And it also makes it so that in order to pick up rupees, you just touch them instead of stabbing them. But that's about it. That's all it really did. And so, yeah, I played through the trilogy at this point, I guess, of those games. And they're all very short. What I found surprising is that the original Zelda games are weirder than RZ, which was attempting to be weird.
Yeah.
Like they're just somehow a little stranger.
I haven't played this RZ more than glancingly a little bit yet, and I've enjoyed what I've played. And I have played those Zeldas, and RZ it's trying to be weird like those Zeldas, but in a nice way. And it's also, and this is something that I appreciate a lot as whatever kind of person it is that I am. It's also just trying to be good and fun to play.
Right. Yeah.
Which is very, very nice.
Like it is coming from a place, I think, of love and respect for the originals. Like I think I think that person liked those games. Something I found out at GDC talking to some of the limited run guys that I appreciated was that at least the line reading that I asked about for the cutscenes was a single take, and they weren't allowed to read it before they started talking. So that's how they got some of the weird line reads that happen in the cutscenes, and I think it's pretty good.
I did that to H-Bomber Guy for an ad that I had run in one of my YouTube videos. I gave him like 5 minutes to read it. And I was like, I need this in like an hour. And then he just like messed up so much because I designed it to annoy him and to be difficult for him to read. And it ended up being this really perplexingly bizarre ad read that was very effortless. I encourage more people to do that sort of thing by design because it's endlessly entertaining to me. It's the only way we can combat TikTok voice, TikTok lady voice that I've now heard in ads for stuff. On YouTube, I've heard the name.
A lot of that on YouTube. There's a lot of robo voice on YouTube. It is please invest in my crypto scam.
Yeah, even more disturbing to me than lady robot voice is the old man robot voice. You ever get that one?
Oh yeah. It sounds like he's about to just bust out talking about I don't have a prostate.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? This went from 0 to real fast. He's like, hello, pilgrim. Cryptocurrency is real and I don't have a prostate. And you're like, Chat GPT is just like preaching its own superiority at you.
I'm really curious what got you so hard there, Jaffe?
Really good.
I don't know. It just hit me. It just hit me, that one.
It's talking about good jokes. It's talking about good jokes, Carl. But it's I've noticed that real life is definitely catching up with they're going to intersect the robots and I mean I've mentioned this before. My little brother's son already talks like an Irish Minecraft YouTuber, just like effortlessly, like quoting phrases with the pauses clipped out. So being like, I'm going to go over here. Oh, just like stopping and starting. And so in other words, there's going to be a generation of youngsters talking exactly like we all know TikTok, whitelady.voice. There's it's like reality TV show editing to me where I have an allergic reaction when I hear it.
Yep.
Because that's not real. It is the god darn Marinara Trench. I like the Marinara Trench is my joke idea for an Italian restaurant name, the Italian seafood restaurant. Somebody take it. Come on. It's my recommendation. If you're listening and you're thinking of opening an Italian seafood restaurant, consider that also serves spaghetti. Consider calling it the Marinara Trench.
Yeah.
It's a very good idea. Unlike calling a car chase, tabletop game card chase, the Marinara Trench. Very good.
I would also like to submit Squid a la.
Squid a la, yeah. Well, why not?
I like a bad named restaurant as well. There was one in
I like restaurants with names that have letters in them. It's just like a couple of letters.
There was one in El Cerrito. It was an Italian restaurant called Strings, but they showed like a pasta scoop with a bunch of spaghetti coming off of it, and they were clearly referring to pasta as strings.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
I love that kind of stuff.
I was just going to say my favorite restaurants are just there. I'm looking back through history. I just love restaurants with letters in their names.
I'm somehow like I'm an idiot. I'm a sucker for restaurant names that are the blank and the blank. Just like for some reason.
Yeah.
What, really?
The Farmer. Yeah, I totally am.
Wow.
The Farmer and the Horseshoe is Frank's favorite restaurant.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, that sounds farm to table.
Yeah.
Wow. They got you.
They get me every time. Like I don't like go right in, but I go like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Next time you're in New York, you have to go to L&B Spumoni Gardens.
I love Spumoni.
I mean, give me a call if you want me to be sitting on the other side of the restaurant when you go. I'll gladly show up at around the same time and sit on the other side of the restaurant.
Are we getting some Spumoni? Is that what's up? I'll get some Spumoni.
This is good. Don't even. I'm putting the name in your head. Next time you're around, let me know. We'll go to L&B Spumoni Garden. It's my favorite place to eat in all of, I think, this entire city. So don't tell anybody that if they're listening. If you're listening, don't tell your friends. Don't tell your friends.
Here's some things that I'd like to say. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode of Insert Credit, please rate and review our show however and wherever and whenever you can. Like this listener who said, This show is so good that I still listen to it after one of the hosts blocked me on Twitter. You can also support us on patreon.com/insertcredit to pay everyone involved in the show except Tim. If you'd like to sponsor our show with an advertisement or a personal message, you can email me at show@insertcredit.com and we'll work something out. You can also join our community at forums.insertcredit.com or find videos of these episodes with specially curated visuals to enhance your experience on youtube.com/insertcreditshow. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn with music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
And click hold your tips.
And your free trial has ended.
All right, wonderful. All right, well, I hope I'll see you next week. We'll have to raise some capital.
Yeah, $4,000 a week.